Hi, I'm Jay, and I've got an agenda. Hey, and welcome back to the J Agenda. This is J Agenda number 7. And if you haven't done so, please click that like, subscribe, and if you uh, like what I have to say, if you think that what I'm saying is worthy of sharing, then I certainly encourage you to do that. I am not looking to monetize this channel. I don't want YouTube's filthy lucre. I want nothing to do with it, and I don't want to subject myself to any pressure from YouTube. It's already tough enough. In my two previous uploads, I presented information on two of the three fundamental class strata within and unique to the capitalist form of the social, economic, and political order. If you recall, and if you haven't seen those videos yet, I ask that you go back and look at J Agenda 5 and J Agenda 6. Those two class strata are known as the bourgeoisie and the petite or the small bourgeoisie. Now, the bourgeoisie is the present minority ruling class, and I mean minority in the truest sense of the word. Their number is very small compared to other strata within this socioeconomic class. This class is composed of those who extract and accumulate their wealth through the exploitation of the present subordinated classes of the small bourgeoisie and the proletariat, or as the proletariat are more commonly described as the working class. The present minority ruling class own the means of commodity production. They own the distribution logistics. They own much of the communication industry. They effectively own and direct governments in order to propagate and to preserve their class position over all of the people and over all of the resources which they subjugate and they exploit for their own interests. Yet the bourgeoisie, this top class, produce nothing. They are a parasitic class. They suck up most of the wealth that is created by those who actually engage in commodity and service production. Everything within a capitalist system exists to serve and preserve the interests of this ruling class. If you can understand the characteristics of the bourgeoisie, that is, that minority ruling class, and understand the logic of capitalism, as irrational as that seems, then much of the confusion that you might have over the present social, economic, and political conditions within the capitalist imperial system will become absolutely clear to you. I recommend once more to you a thoughtful and interrogative reading of Lenin's Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, as well as a summary of Marx's Capital as a fundamental political economy text. Now, I have included links for those two in the show notes. The small bourgeoisie is, for the sake of simplicity, the class of small capitalists that are in constant tension between the threat of ruin by leveraging of capital by the bourgeoisie, in other words, being bought out or shoved aside, and the threat of worker activism from underneath. No small or petty bourgeoisie wants his workforce to get angry, come into the office, and demand raises or better treatment or profit sharing or ownership sharing. They don't want that. They are a vacillating political class who will support any political party or candidate that they perceive offers the greatest chance for their survival. They are often loath to support the bourgeoisie, but many feel that they have no class. They feel like if they support the bourgeoisie and their political and economic gains, that somehow they too will be saved, that they will too be somehow ushered up into the somehow up into the ruling class. This class understands the immoral and inhumane logic of capitalism, but are not economically or politically powerful enough to protect their own class interests. They can also be outright hostile toward the working class activism with the hope that they will be supported by the ruling class. So in terms of where the petty bourgeoisie or the small business and manufacturers, they are in that political middle, always pushing and pulling, always afraid, always looking over their shoulder, always looking ahead, always looking around. And that's why such a class is always politically unstable. And yet they can be manipulated by one class above them or one class below them if they feel that it will preserve their own position. As promised, this third upload will concern the lowest yet truly most powerful class within the structure of late-stage capitalism. This class, to which most of you belong, is called the proletariat, or simply the wage-earning class. The proletariat, that is our class, developed beside the bourgeoisie with the capitalists. The proletariat did not exist in any large sense prior to the development of capitalism. The rise of the exploited proletariat has been described as the gravediggers for the bourgeois capitalists, because along with ownership and the need for workers came that working class, and there has always been a struggle between the two. But eventually, that majority working class will overcome the bourgeoisie. Capitalism has not always existed, and it will not always exist. Like all other historical forms of social and economic orders, capitalism will one day be a thing of the past. This class, this working class, is described as that class in society which lives entirely from the sale of its labor and does not draw profit from any kind of capital, whose relative prosperity, whose life and death, whose sole existence and survival depends on the demand for the labor and the wages paid to them by the capitalists. Their position as workers, our position as workers, makes us dependent upon and thus held captive by the capitalist. Capitalists require the labor of workers to expand capital and to make it survive. Without the working class, capitalism will collapse. And herein is the power that the proletariat has to overthrow the bourgeoisie capitalist order. When the working class withholds their labor for the profits of the capitalists, and it redirects that labor and all that we produce toward meeting the needs of society without the exploitation of man by man, a class struggle begins to emerge. And this is why the capitalists and their servile institutions must always ensure that the working class is repressed and that it is held in subjection by this political and economic stratagem. As the bourgeoisie moves to repress the political activism of the workers, this struggle intensifies. The future historical significance of the proletariat is ultimately not that it is oppressed, but rather that it is the only class now which is capable of overthrowing bourgeois society and establishing a classless society. This is why scientific revolutionary socialism is, at its core, a systematic means of emancipation for the majority working class. Liberation and common prosperity will not emerge naturally or organically. It's just not going to happen. It always emerges from violent class struggle. And if we are to be free, that's the future that's just ahead. Capitalism will not reform capitalism in any significant way. And any reforms that capitalism does offer, or the bourgeoisie does offer to the proletariat, is there to preserve and protect itself against the anger of the working masses. And mind you, whatever reforms, whatever concessions they give to the exploited class, they can take it back whenever they so choose. If they were to reform capitalism, it places their position in peril. And that is why socialism cannot be established through political or electoral means within any capitalist system. There's so much more to be learned about the history, the character, and the political power of the working class, and I'm going to leave that up to you to discover for yourselves. But I end this segment on this note. Those who pay your wages see you as a disposable resource. No matter how much they paint over that with a veneer of humanity, no matter how many pats on the back or awards or small bonuses that they give you, you are just a commodity. And if you were to be fired, or if you were to die, or if you were to go away, they could replace you tomorrow. Your humanity to them means absolutely nothing. They don't give a shit about the person you are. They don't give a shit about your struggles. They don't give a shit about your health or your well-being, only enough to make sure that you show up for work the next day. This logic of capitalism, that is, profits and property are of more value than the lives of those who create them, is immoral and it is dehumanizing. This logic contributes to the degeneration of human relationships, of human value. It contributes to the immiseration and the death of millions upon millions, as well as to the degeneration of entire societies. The only way out of this, the only pathway to the elimination of these inhumane social and economic orders is the overthrow of capitalism and the capitalist class of parasitic creatures that perpetuate it and attempt to preserve it at the cost of human life and decency. The decision to learn effective and proper revolutionary strategies, to organize as a class force, and to move forward as a class against those who exploit is up to us. It's up to you, and it's up to me. The re-election of Donald Trump as the President of the United States is a sign of the growing anger of the U.S. masses against the status quo. It also reflects, wrongly so, but reflects nevertheless, a widespread hope that the change that they so desperately desire can be delivered by individuals and by the ballot box. What needs to be understood is that this comprehensive and salvific change will never be made through an electoral system intentionally structured and operated as a means to preserve the subjugation of the working class. I recently heard someone say that a broken system can never be fixed by a broken system. As with the election of Barack Obama in 2008 and of Trump in 2016, those who voted for change are going to be disappointed. No matter what Trump promised, it must be accepted that he will not, or that he cannot, fulfill the campaign promises that he spewed in order to exploit the anger of the masses and to set himself and his clique into power. The sooner the American proletariat, that is you and me, stop pinning our hopes on bourgeois elections and start to organize and seize our own salvation, the better it will be for workers here in the United States and for those all over the world. And welcome to one of my favorite parts of the J Agenda, and that is simply talking about signs and wonders and other things that I see around me that I like to comment on. The first photograph that we have here is from an alleged craft beer department of one of our large retail stores in the area. But yet under the craft beer, you'll notice that those are actually cheap and generally distasteful American domestic beers. That bothers me. I expect to find craft beer in the craft beer section. The next photograph is one that of a kitchen magnet that I saw in someone's home, and I totally agree with the sentiment here. And it says, some days you just need, or you need a word that's stronger than fuck. Somebody tell me what that word is, and I will send you a gift certificate. The next photograph is in two parts. Now you'll notice here, this is a table with a place setting and a folded American flag. I came across this in a public institution, and alongside this setting was this note. And this note describes what all of those things on the table mean. Now, I'm not going to go through all of those, but I want you to see, I don't know, about maybe a third of the way down, where you see lit candle. And it says that the lit candle stands for that America is a light in the world of darkness. Well, when I read that, I just saw the incongruity of that. The United States is not and has never been a light in a world of darkness. And what does the United States presume itself to be? A light. And why do many Americans view as anything outside of America or the American system or American values, whatever the hell that means, the American forms of government or economic or social structure, how come they like to see others as living in darkness? When the truth of it is that most people just want to be left alone by the United States. In fact, everywhere the United States goes, darkness, chaos, violence, and bloodshed seems to follow. I've included in the show notes a couple of links about American atrocities. And I invite you to click on those and just go through, since, the founding of the United States, the atrocities that the United States has committed as the light in a dark world. And then I appeal to your moral sense, your moral judgment, to figure out or to decide for yourself just where the darkness might very well be. Thank you for watching the J Agenda, and I look forward to being with you next time. Hopefully, I'll be able to get content up a little bit sooner, a little more frequently. My professional status has changed. Now I've got a little bit more time to do the things that I love to do, and one of the things that I love to do is to be here with you. Take care, solidarity, and I'll talk to you next time.